Alright, hey guys! Yeah, I have a whole different setup here. I'm not going to be playing Soma today. I was talking to some people yesterday mostly, and it was mostly my father who gave me the advice that maybe I should change some things up, kind of do different things here and there every once in a while. And this was something that I've actually been wanting to do for about a week or two now. Hey, Michael's Magic, good to see you. Wow, you got in here quick, man. Um, I had been. It's been really interesting because it seems like there are a lot of people who are getting more and more interested in cube formats. And I have this is my cube, and it's been something that I've worked on for a little bit over a year now. And it seems like a lot of people are kind of hankering for cube and wanting to learn cube, which I think is awesome because, in my opinion, cube magic is watching Hot Ones, huh? Yeah, Cube Time. Welcome, Wrath of Wood. Hot Ones, isn't that the show, the YouTube channel where they like make famous people eat really spicy hot wings? Can't wait to see the cube. Awesome. Well, I got a bunch of people in here that want to see this, so that's awesome. I'm really excited about this. This is my baby. Like, you guys got to understand. This is something I've been working on. I already mentioned about a year or so, and it has transformed a lot. It's gone through so many different iterations, and I've put it all together and then deconstructed it and then put it all together and then deconstructed it, and it's something that's been constantly changing all the time. And it's this is basically like, I'm a Magic player, but I'm not. I don't play Standard. I don't play Elder Dragon Highlander slash Commander. I don't play Modern or Legacy or Vintage or anything. And for a long time, I mean, I did used to do that way when I was younger, but that's not really true for me because it's not very fun for me. I'm a very casual gamer. I kind of always have been, despite trying to be competitive when I was younger. But this has basically become everything that I adore about Magic the Gathering. It's everything I've always wanted Magic the Gathering to be, and it's I don't know. I love it, and so I'm going to share it with you guys. And there's a lot of stuff involved with this cube. It's kind of like a now see it's very different than, say, like it is kind of more like a drafting cube, in the sense like classic cubes are generally something you would draft with a bunch of people, and this is close to a drafting cube, but it's got a bunch of unique rules. You can't really draft it the same way that you would do a normal draft for a drafting cube. And it's definitely not as large as, say, like it's not. It's I would say this is about a medium cube. It's about 420 cards total, and I think that it's hilarious, by the way, that Cube is the purest form of Magic Draft pre-release as WW2. I don't know. I'm assuming that you don't mean World War II. I don't know what WW2 means in the context you're talking about, but yeah, it's just Cube has been a lot of fun in my group. Yeah, it's just fun because it's like you get to, like, there's so many things that make Cube really fun. It's that you get to literally build your own format. Like, you can, like, I mean, like, I started out with the stereotypical cube format. Like, it was a drafting cube, and I followed all the basic rules of a drafting cube format. But then, as me and my friends played it more and more, we changed things. It was constantly like, we changed rules, we changed how the drafting works, we changed how the cards are distributed, we changed like what kind of cards go into it, we changed how starting hands begin. Like, I'll even go over some of the various unique rules that I have. Like, so first of all, like I said, it's 420 cards, and generally the way that it's done is that it can the whole cube as it is accommodates up to, if you're playing with the whole cube, it can accommodate up to 4 people. And you generally are going to each get 5 stacks of 21 cards based on the randomization that it's set up in. And then basically you get your 5 stack. Like, it may sound weird, but 1 stack of 21 cards is essentially a booster pack in this cube. But the thing is, too, is that it's not like the classic drafting style where you take a card and then you pass it to the left. This is literally, you get 5 piles, 5 randomized piles of 21 cards. Those are your 5 booster packs. And then you crack them open, or, you take your 5 piles, and then whatever you get, you get. And that's what you build your deck out of. So I guess it's kind of more of like a constructed type of drafting rather than like a classic drafting where you take a card and pass it to the left. But these are just based on my rules and how me and my friends play it. So we have our 5 stacks of 21. We basically go through all the cards and we set them up in piles based on color. We're very good at not peeking. Like, we all sit like right directly next to each other and kind of like set up all our piles like all near each other. And we're just really good at not peeking at each other. We have a bunch of things that we do where the people that I play with, they're very close friends of mine. And yeah, it's kind of like a sealed chaos draft a little bit. It is kind of like that. But the people that I play with my cube with, because my cube is very special to me, and I only play with very close friends of mine. And we all are very good sportsmen. Like, we have great sportsmanship amongst each other. And so we do a lot of things that, like if you were a jerk, if you were some guy who was just a total jerk and wanted to win all the time, we have a lot of rules that jerks could take advantage of. But because we don't play with jerks and we don't play with cheaters, we kind of allow ourselves to have these rules that could be abused by people who are jerks. But because we're all great sportsmen and we're all great friends and we, genuinely like each other's presence, we have these very chilled back rules. So, like I said, we get our piles and we kind of display them out in front of each other, and we're just being very kind and courteous to one another and not looking at what we all got, because we do like to actually surprise one another with the selections we get. And then we kind of just, normally what happens is the cube is built up of 50 cards of each different color. And then there are 50 cards of each color, 50 colorless artifacts, 60 multicolored gold cards, and 60 non-basic lands. And they're all kind of shuffled and randomized into one another. And basically, like, the idea is that the numbers, like, you'll notice that they're like 50 of each color, 50 of the non-colored, but 60 gold cards and 60 lands. I actually figured out those numbers based on the comfort level of playing with the cube. So, like, and because, so something you'll learn if you do a cube that's similar to mine is your gold cards and your lands, like the gold cards that you get and the lands that you get, determine how you're going to play or what you're going to play. And, like, it doesn't force you to play a certain way. It just kind of is like, here are some pieces that can help you figure out what you want to do when you're building your cube deck, And we like it like that because it kind of gives us some direction rather than just raw chaos constantly. Like, it is chaos, but it kind of, like, helps you move in a particular direction and get a basic understanding of what you're trying to do or what you want to do. So, that's kind of how that works. So some of the more interesting rules, we have a special rule that we developed. This actually came into how we play the cube much later. Wrath of Wood says gold cards are usually build-arounds. Yes, exactly, Wrath of Wood. I prefer to have gold cards in the cube that make you want to play certain things. So, like, a lot of the time when me and my friends, when we get our gold cards in our lands, we kind of flip through those first. Because the lands will show you what you're allowed to play, and the gold cards will encourage you towards a particular direction. So, yeah, I actually, Man Cave, I don't have any hybrid cards in this cube. I own a lot of hybrid cards, but I chose not to do them because they kind of mess with the numbers. I don't really have room to fit them in this particular cube, and if I were to force them into how my cube is balanced right now, it would completely throw off the balance of the overall cube. Because, like I said, like this cube is very carefully balanced. I have spent a lot of time balancing this cube between these 420 cards, and it's, you know, like I said, there are plenty of times where I completely, like, I'll build it up and then take it apart and then realize there's something that I don't like about it, and then I take it apart again and then I build it back up again. Like, it's, you know. So, yeah, let me get a little more into the rules. So obviously the lands are important, so we actually developed a special rule called the land trade rule. So, and this is in my, like, I call this the spicy cube. It also has another nickname in my group of friends. Like, I only just recently started calling it the spicy cube, but the name that my friends know it by, I actually call this the Monopoly box. That is this cube's original name, the Monopoly box. Um, and there's a bunch of reasons why it's called that. But the main reason why it's called the Monopoly box is because this cube is a board game. It's not like your stereotypical game of Magic. It is a board game. All the pieces are here. Everything you need to play the cube is right here inside this box, other than obviously the token and dice, which are actually, this is my gaming table, and I have all the dice and all the tokens here too. So it's basically designed to be like a game of Monopoly in the sense that all the pieces are here. You don't need pieces from outside of it. It's a well-maintained, one-go kind of game style. So that's why people refer to it as the Monopoly box. And I even have an altered card in here that is a reference to Monopoly as well. Not in the actual cube, but it's just kind of, you know, I'll show it to you guys in a minute. So we have a thing called the land trade, and basically what happens is we kind of figure out generally what our deck is going to be. So, like, for example, me and my best friend will be building our decks, and we'll get the basic deck setup that we want. And then we'll go through the lands, and we'll pick, like, we'll make sure we have all the colors that we want for our lands. But then we'll set aside the lands that we're not planning on using at all. Like, they're just completely off color, they're awkward, you know, whatever. We set those aside, and then me and my friend would sit across from each other, and I'd be like, hey, dude, like, I have 4 lands that I'm not going to use. Do you want to trade? And he'll be like, yeah, I have about, like, 5 lands. And so if he says 5 lands, then I'll say, okay, well, I only have 4 up for grabs, so I can give you 4 and you can give me 4. Or like he'll be like, oh, well, I only have 2 lands I want to give up. And I'm like, okay, well, if I like the lands, I'll take the 2 lands and you can take 2. And generally, sometimes what happens too is he'll say, hey, I have 4 lands that I have up for grabs. And I'll say, listen, I actually am using all of my lands, so I have nothing to trade to you. And as soon as I say that, like, the trade's over. Because I'm not going to have anything that I can give to him. And it's just kind of like, it's another one of those things where it's a rule that we implemented based on courtesy. There's a lot of rules like that in my particular cube. And that kind of helps us balance out our decks better. You know, it's kind of like I said, it's a thing of courtesy. It's kind of fun. It balances the decks better and makes them more playable. So that's one of the very beginning rules that I have for my cube. Um, let's see, what are some of the other rules? We have somebody mentioned specialized mulligans. Um, Power levels. Sorry, I'm catching up on the chat again. Power levels are difficult to manage in cubes, often in the wall of entry. Yeah. Did you know that you can make a functioning computer in Magic? I've heard about that video. I have not watched it though. It's not something I'm very interested in. Um, I mean, because like I said, like this is my interest in Magic. Like I'm not into deck building. You'll notice I have some decks sitting here. Um, the reason why I have these out is you guys are gonna laugh at this. These are bookmarks. These are they're cube bookmarks. I use them to kind of section off areas inside the cube, so I can only use certain amounts of the cube or whatever. So because it's just once I open it, you'll see it's just basically a big stack of cards, and they'll all flop over. So I have these deck boxes here to kind of section it off and separate the cards. But anyways, going back to what I was saying, I just play cube. I'm not interested in deck building anymore. It's not fun for me. And like the thing is that in my opinion, like it's kind of like when Richard Garfield designed Keyforge. One of the things that he did was he made sure that every single deck designed is randomly designed, and you have no control to edit it. And the thing about that is that when you give the players control over how they're going to edit their decks, like, and obviously that's what Magic is all about. Like, it's all about making your perfect deck that like you want to play with, and it's like that's cool and all, but then you lose like all of the fun of the chaos and the randomization. And I mean, there is deck building to a degree in this cube, but all the cards are so random and everything is singleton that no one person can build a singular solid strategy. It's still random chaos. Like it's controllable to a degree because you are building the deck, but everything is singleton and nothing has a definitive synergy. And I really enjoy that. Like and my catcher is the same way. Like he built his cube in that specific way, but his is an entirely different format. We, like, people like me and him and other people that I've played with, we love the raw chaos. The raw chaos is what really can make Magic just an absolutely fantastic game. And that's what these cube formats overall, they embrace it. They embrace the chaos when you play cube, and that's what makes it so fun. In fact, almost like not every single time, but the majority of the time that I've had friends come over and play this cube with me, most of them by the end of the night say to me, that is one of the most spectacular games of Magic I think I've ever played. And like, even though we say that like on a regular basis when playing with the cube, they always say that it's fantastic for different reasons each time. Like they'll either have like games where just like huge blowouts where like everything comes, like I've had games like with this cube where everything comes down to one life point, like one single life point. And I mean, there's the common saying that the only life that matters is your last life. But the thing is that like you don't always see that come true in regular games in Magic. In the cube, that happens a lot. Like I have had games where me or my best friend will be down to one life and we'll top deck. Like we're going to die the next turn and we'll literally top deck a card that just finishes the game. And just like oh, I'm at 50 life, you can't beat me. And it's like, well, I top deck this card and the game's over. Like it happens. Like one of the best games I ever played was I was fighting my best friend with the cube. Like we were playing cube, obviously, and I had him down to one life, and I was at 30. I was at 30 life, and he was at one life, and he top decked Platinum Angel and was able to cast it that turn, and I had no way to kill that Platinum Angel. There was just no way. And I was desperately looking for anything I could Like my hand didn't have any answers. My board state didn't have any answers. Like the next like 4 or 5 turns of card drawing didn't give me any answers to that Platinum Angel. He proceeded to kill me with it. Like he went into negative numbers with a Platinum Angel, and I had no way to get rid of that Platinum Angel, and he murdered me with it. Like, games like that happen in the cube, and it's absolutely spectacular. And I wasn't even mad. Like, I couldn't be mad at him about it because it was so cool. Like, it was so cool. And I mean, there have been other crazy games like that. Like, you guys are going to see some bonkers stuff in here. I keep getting distracted with all these stories, but like I probably should actually crack open the cube, and I'll just kind of talk a little bit more about the rules. By the way, this is my very nice leather case that I keep my cube in. This case is very nice. It keeps it in great condition, and I take very good care of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this bad boy up, and we're going to crack them open and take a look, because I've been rambling on about all sorts of things and not necessarily showing what's going on in here. So I'm going to pop this baby open. And by the way, because I mentioned that I call this the Monopoly box, this is the Monopoly card that I keep in here. And you'll notice it's a magic card. It is definitely a magic card, but it's altered to look like a get out of jail free card. And I painted it myself. I love it. And I just kind of keep it in here just for fun. It was I basically designed it. I painted that shortly after we came up with the name, the Monopoly box for this cube. But I mean, I'm also calling it the Spicy Cube. But yeah, so I was also mentioning that I have kind of some, oh, Bow Falcon. I didn't go down to the post office today. You know what? I will. I should have done that today, and I didn't. I had some chores to do today, which I did, and then I was supposed to meet up with a friend in town today, and I was going to go to my post office and pick up whatever mail is down there. And I didn't because that friend of mine canceled on me. So I was like, oh, I guess I don't really have a reason to go into town. But I will get to it very soon, Bo. Trying to figure out a good time when I can do it. I'm hoping maybe within the next few days I can get down there. I'm not 100% sure. I might have to, when I head to, because I have work tomorrow, so I might try to go into town earlier and see if I can pick it up. Tasty coffee. Okay. So I was mentioning, because we were talking about specialized mulligans. Oh, and by the way, you guys are going to see some wild, wild cards in here. Like, for example, right there, there's an Ancestral Recall. I gotta say, though, it's not real, guys. It's not a real Ancestral Recall. I'm sorry to possibly get your hopes up, but this is a proxy. I do play with proxies. This cube has Power 9 in it, so they're all proxies. I hope that one day I will be able to get real Power 9, but until then, let me tell you something interesting about proxies. They play just like the real thing. Who would have thought, right, that proxies play like the real thing? So, yeah, so we're going to pull out some cards. I have all the cards here. Just kind of, they're all already separated by color. This cube is not shuffled right now. And I do have a particular method with shuffling it, which I can show you guys later. I don't know if I really want to fully shuffle it right now, though. We'll see. I'm probably going to, I'm going to have to move a bunch of stuff. I'm going to move this cube out of the way, like the box, and I'm just going to start putting the stacks of cards in front of you guys. But yeah, I do have a way of shuffling this cube so that it's randomized relatively, like packs. It's basically like, the basic breakdown of what I do to shuffle the cube is I kind of like take each stack of like colored stack, and then I shuffle it like you would like a deck, and then flip them upside down so that their backs are facing up. And Then I kind of like do like almost like a mana weaving style for anybody who is old school like me and knows what mana weaving is. I basically do something sort of like mana weaving, except there is no mana in the mana weaving. It's just like, like you take a card from one, like you take the stack of one color, and then you do 8 piles of that one color, and then you put that stack down, and then you grab the next colored stack, and then you do 8 cards on, like, well, one card on each of the 8 piles, and then you just do that for every single stack until you get rid of all the cards, and that's essentially shuffling it. That's essentially shuffling the cube. So I'm going to kind of push these over to the side here. I think you guys can still see them relatively. And I will bring the camera closer. I'm just trying to move these out of the way. Just get them all settled into their proper place, so that we have like a relative order for all these things. And you guys are probably going to see some funky stuff. Like, I do have like some various different kinds of proxies in here, but most of the cards are real. So, like, I mean, I've been playing this game for a very long time, so I do have some really crazy cards in here that are legitimate. And I mean, some of them, like, I've never sold my cards before, ever. Now, I've given away cards to people, but I have never sold my cards to anybody. So I do have cards that I've had since I was like a child. But if you don't pay the $2,000 Power 9 explode when they hit the board, watch out, Habanero. Yeah, there you go. It is quite something when, like, it always feels amazing when you can get Power 9 cards out and they do amazing things. But one of the things that's really interesting about playing with Power 9 in a cube format like this is that you frequently will learn that Power 9 is, like, not as powerful as you would initially think it to be. Because, like, I mean, this is all singleton, obviously, and it's a chaotic format, and you can't depend on it. And, I mean, admittedly, like, Power 9 in almost every format is restricted down to one card. But people design decks to, like, manipulate that so that they can, see their Power 9 more frequently. And, like, they have all these builds and designs that make it so that the Power 9 really, really stands out. But when you're dealing with utter chaos in a cube, Power 9 is not, like, it's not as empowering as you would initially believe it to be. Because, like, there are times where Power 9, like, can hit like a train, and then there are times where, like, Power 9 is like, pfft, like, no joke. There is actually, this is the best part. There is one piece out of the entire collection of Power 9 that I have in my cube, there is one card in the Power 9 that falls flat on its face more than any other piece of Power 9. You want to know what that card is? The Black Lotus. The Black Lotus falls flat on its face in most cube games. Like there is nothing more awful than drawing a Black Lotus on turn 9. Okay? Go and play a game where you draw a Black Lotus on turn 9, okay? It is the worst feeling ever. Like, it is just an awful feeling. And I mean, it's okay, like, if you're lucky enough that you have something that is, like, just barely out of reach on turn 9, and that 3 extra mana can, like, jump in and, like, bring that card out for you for whatever weird reason. Like, sure, it feels alright, but, like, me and my friends, me and all my friends, we have all had our own equal opportunities to play with the Black Lotus. We've had amazing games with the Black Lotus, and we have had shitty games with the Black Lotus. And, the thing is that, like, it's so we kind of figured out that if you can get a Black Lotus out between turns 1 and 3, you're probably going to have an amazing game. But if the Black Lotus comes out pretty much any time after turn 3, it's probably not going to do very much for you. It's really weird, because you're led to believe and you're taught that the Black Lotus is like the king of all Magic cards, but it can really screw with you. It's really funny. The last time my best friend came over and we played with the cube, I actually had the Black Lotus in my deck, and I didn't see it once. We played, I think, 5 or 6 games with our decks, and I didn't see the Black Lotus come out once. I didn't get it in my hand once out of all of those 5 or 6 games. And I remember telling him about it, and I was like, I pulled it out because we deconstruct the decks at the end of the night, and I pulled the Black Lotus, and I was like, I didn't see this thing once in all the games we played. And my friend turns to me, he says the funniest thing, he's like, oh, the Black Lotus? Yeah, she's a fickle bitch. And I just laughed so hard. And basically ever since then, me and my friends have been calling the Black Lotus the fickle bitch. Because you never know with it. Sometimes it just explodes with raw power, and then other times it's just, awful. It can just be an awful feeling. So yeah, I was gonna talk about mulligan rules, and I keep getting totally distracted about it. So me and my friends, we have a really weird mulligan style that we kind of built on our own, and this is another one of those situations where I was talking about if you're an asshole, you can take advantage of these rules and cheat the game. But if you're chill and a cool person like me and my friends are, the rules, these special rules that we have, make the game more fun. So we have a special mulligan rule, which is you draw your 7 cards, obviously, and then you look at your 7 cards and you basically decide how many of those cards are useful to you. So then when you figure out what cards are useless, you basically say to your opponent, I am throwing away X amount of cards. So you take those X amount of cards that you say you're throwing away and you put them on the bottom of your deck. And then you draw that exact amount of cards again. Okay? And yeah, that sounds like something that would be cheating, but the thing is we're a bunch of casual fun guys who like to have casual fun. So, and we do have some stipulations about it. So for example, when you do that, you can actually do that any number of times, but the rule is that each time you do it, you are absolutely required to be 1 less card than you were previously. So if I said to myself, okay, I'm throwing away 5 cards, and then I draw 5, and then I say, oh god, this is still bad, I'm going to throw away 3 cards, and then I draw 3. So I can't throw away 5 cards again and draw 5. So I would keep doing that until I get down to 0 cards. So okay, I draw throwing away 5 cards, draw 5. That isn't what I wanted, but I have more cards. I'm going to throw away 3 and draw 3. And then, oh, this 3 is not quite right. I'm going to throw away 1 and draw 1. And then after that 1, you can't do it anymore. That's it. So you will always start with 7 cards, and the mulligan rule we have basically allows you to kind of build a hand that is playable. It's not supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be playable. That's it. We also kind of do stuff where, sometimes, you can go, you'll kind of, draw, a full hand of things that are just awful. And if you can recognize that everything in your hand is, you can't play it, let's say you draw 0 lands, or you draw 1 land. You are also allowed to throw your hand back into your deck, shuffle it up, and then your opponent cuts it, and then you can redraw 7 cards. And then you can kind of also still do that previous mulligan rule. Like I said, it's very casual. And it's once again the thing that I was saying, which is if you're playing with a jerk, they will take advantage of it. But if you're playing with cool people, like, that just want to have a good time, it's a really fun rule that allows everybody to kind of have a hand that's playable without having to worry about like land flooding or land drought, you know? And I mean that stuff can still happen, but at least you don't have that happening in your starting hand. So that's kind of how we do that. Another really interesting rule that my cube is built with, and it's actually weird because this is a rule that is actually older than the cube. Before I built this cube, I used to play a lot of kitchen table matches. And at some point, I don't exactly remember when it started, but it was definitely years ago. Like, it might be as far back as 2009 or 2010 when me and my friends first built this rule for our kitchen games. We have a weird rule where your maximum hand size is 8. It's not 7, it's 8. I can't remember who originally designed that rule because I don't think I was the one that started that. I think it was somebody else. But I have held true to that rule for years before this cube was designed. And I actually decided to make it a legitimate rule in the cube. So, and it actually is really nice because there are things that kind of challenge that a bit that make the game a lot more interesting. For example, one card that challenges that rule right off the bat. Let me show you. I know he's in here somewhere. And this is like one of those things where it's good to like have that weird rule. Where is it? It's in here somewhere. This will be the first card I officially show you guys besides the Ancestral Recall. Mr. Jin-Gitaxias, right here. Mr. Big Badass Core Augur Jin-Gitaxias, who says, at the beginning of your end step, draw 7 cards. Each opponent's maximum hand size is reduced by 7. So, with how Jin-Gitaxias works, and based on the overall rule of my cube of your maximum hand size is 8, then that means that when Jin-Gitaxias comes in, he's reducing your hand by 7, but your maximum hand size is 8. So that allows the opponent who's fighting against Jin-Gitaxias to still be allowed to have 1 card in their hand. Which you would say to yourself, like, well, but that kind of sucks because whoever's playing Jin-Gitaxias, you know, isn't going to auto-win with Jin-Gitaxias. And it's like, yeah, but that's kind of the point. Like, it kind of builds a little bit, it kind of unintentionally built a special level of balance for Jin-Gitaxias himself. And I mean, that's not necessarily true with that rule constantly, but it does make things a little more interesting, and it also does kind of add a different edge to the game. So, like, we always say, like, you know, at the end of your turn, discard down to 8. So, like, you can always have 8 cards in your hand, and that's okay. And like I said, that's actually a rule that predates the cube itself. A friend of mine a long, long time ago invented that rule for playing kitchen table Magic, and I've stuck with it ever since. And I think I like it. It's always kind of add this interesting dynamic to the game that we all really enjoy. Try to think of if there are any other special rules. I think those are the main ones. I used to have a rule that we don't really use anymore. Like, we kind of got, like, it was a rule that existed in kitchen table Magic with my friends for a while. We, like, I implemented it into the cube, but then we got rid of it because of our special mulligan rule. And it kind of works with the cards in your hand. But the mulligan rule we developed for the cube kind of eliminates this one. But we used to have a rule called a gentleman's draw. And a gentleman's draw is, like I said, it's a rule that's irrelevant, but some people might find it interesting and might want to use it. Is a gentleman's draw is when your opponent says, I have no lands in my hand, and I've, like, done all of my discarding through mulliganing and stuff like that, and I still don't have any lands. So when you tell that to your opponent basically is allowed to respond with, okay, well, we'll do a gentleman's draw. And a gentleman's draw is your opponent takes your deck, goes through it, and pulls out a basic land and puts it into your hand. And it just basically is like, it's another one of those things where it's about politeness and sportsmanship and all that stuff. And it basically allows your opponent to help create a more fair game for you to play. But like I said, we kind of eliminated that with the new mulligan rule we have for the cubes. So there's not really any purpose to the gentleman's draw anymore. But I thought I'd bring it up because it was kind of an interesting rule that we used to play with that we don't anymore. I think that's pretty much all the basics of the rules. So we're gonna actually jump into some of the cards here. Let's get into the tasty, juicy stuff here. I'm gonna bring the camera down close. I think we're just gonna go through. What do you guys think? Do you think we should go through? We can either start with like the Wooburg order, which is white, blue, black, green, white, blue, black, red, and green. So we would start with white. Or we can choose to go through the lands, or the gold cards, or the artifact cards first. Yeah, yes, the old just get a damn land rule. Yeah, that's like I said what it was called. It was we called it the gentleman's draw. Yeah, it was just like the whole point of like these specialized rules is like the cube is built around fun. And like your opponent is just as entitled to have a fun time as you are. And like that's important because the thing is that you guys are gonna see this cube is filled to the brim with powerful bullshit. And so like if I'm allowed to have fun with powerful bullshit, then my opponent is allowed to have fun with powerful bullshit. Like that's how we do it because it's about fun. That's all it is. It's just about having as much fun as possible. So you know what? I think we'll just kind of go through Wooburg order. How about that? Does that sound good? So I'm gonna bring the camera in kind of close. Let's see. We'll start with. I'm gonna kind of move these piles a little bit out of the way here, just so we can kind of have some room to kind of go over the cards and look at them here. Okay, give me just a second. And like I said, you guys are gonna see some pretty bonkers stuff in here. I'm pretty proud of how I got this thing all together. And like this cube is kind of like I would say it's like the overall build of like my entire life as a Magic player. Because the majority of these cards are things that I've collected since almost as far back as being like, I think I started, if I remember correctly, I started playing Magic when I was 11 years old. So a lot of these cards date back all the way to me being like 11 years old. They're old cards. But I mean, I'll also point out ones that are relatively new or that I bought. So like I'll say like, oh, I remember I opened this in a booster pack versus, oh, this is one I bought online as a single like about a week or two ago. So let's go ahead and start with the top one. So the first one I have here is a Karmic Guide. And let me kind of, it's a little, there we go, get it to focus. Ooh, let's bring it over here. Karmic Guide. So Karmic Guide is pretty powerful card. It's a Angel Spirit, 5 mana, 2/2. Focus. Oh, there it is. Flying, protection from black. Echo 5, which is like the only bad thing about it, but the thing is that this card is so high in power level, hand over fist, that the Echo cost, you don't even care. It was focused for a second there, and then it went out of focus again. Let me kind of bring this down a little bit lower, because I think that might help a little bit. So Karmic Guide says flying, protection from black, Echo 5. And then it says, when Karmic Guide enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, I mean, it's a 5 mana 2/2 flying protection from black with reanimation attached to it. There's literally nothing bad about this whatsoever, and the art is pretty spectacular as well. Um, this card is actually fairly new in the cube. I haven't even seen it get played yet. It's so new. And just because it's new to the cube doesn't mean the card itself is old. This is a card that I originally got back in a commander deck. It was the Derivi commander deck, the Bant, blue, white, and green. And I'll move this camera just a little bit. There we go. So it's a really powerful card. Like it's a reanimation spell attached to a flying body. Like you can't go wrong with it. Valor. This is a 4 mana first striker 2/2, and it says as long as you control planes and this card is in your graveyard, creatures you control have first strike. So like a lot of the cards that we're going over in the beginning, they're just power level cards. Like, and that's the thing too, is that there is a level of balance in the cube. It's based, like, you're going to see a lot of powerhouse cards, but then you're going to see a lot of cards that are based on balancing those powerhouses. So, like, you're going to see removal. You're going to see, like, cards that negate abilities of other cards. You're going to see, like, there's a lot of balance to it. And that's really important to when you're building a cube, is things need to balance out. It's so important. It's absurdly important that you balance things out. Like, you're gonna want to make sure that you have artifact removal. You're gonna want to make sure you have enchantment removal. You're gonna want creature removal. You're gonna want every kind of removal, and you can't skimp on it. Like, obviously, like, you're gonna want to make sure that, like, the whole thing isn't flooded with removal, but removal is very important. And the thing is that, like, every color kind of has a particular balance for its type of removal. And once you put a form of removal into the cube, you don't really ever want to take it out. Like, for example, like, I actually had some cards that were removal based, that I took out, but when I took them out, I replaced them with new kinds of removal. I didn't replace them with, like, cards that were not removal, because the cube, as I have it built now, has a very specific balance in removal, and it's so important. Speaking of removal, we have Hidden Dragon Slayer, and this is from Dragons of Tarkir, I believe. Yeah. So it basically is a megamorph creature. When it turns faced up, it can destroy a creature with power 4 or greater. Very useful card. Definitely a form of white removal. I would actually say white probably has the majority of removal. Martyr of Sands. This is a powerhouse white card for 1 mana. It's very, very strong. Like, there are a lot of people who sometimes will underestimate, like, the overall power level of this card. It is absurdly strong. Like, you do not want to question the level of, like, power that this card can have. And it was actually funny because one of my best friends, when he first saw this card, he thought it was awful. He thought this card was terrible. And but the thing is that whenever I would play with it, I would be like he's like, oh yeah, I didn't want to play with it because it just gains life, and, like, life is not very good. And I'm like, you do understand that, like, if you're playing a lot of white and you're gaining 3 times the amount of, like, life for each white card you reveal, and you're not scared of showing those cards off, you're often gaining, like, 9 to 12 life for the price of, like, 2 mana total. So, like, I could have this guy on the field on turn 1, and then chump block something for like on turn 2, and then immediately, like, sacrifice it, and then gain, like, 12 life, which puts me, like, sometimes 2 or 3 turns ahead of my opponent. Like the thing is I'm not a big fan of, like, life gain in general, but when it's something as absurdly large amounts of life, such as Martyr of Sands, it's like sometimes I like to kind of say to myself, like one in an early game, 1 combat step can equal about 3 approximate life. Obviously, that's not 100% true, and that, differs, but that's kind of how I measure it. So, like, if I have, like, a Martyr of Sands out, and I can sacrifice it and gain 12 life in one turn, that can, in a sense, put me 2 to 3 turns ahead of my opponent in life, which can sometimes buy me 2 or 3 extra turns when the game is like close to the end and it really, really matters. So it's kind of this big deal. Um, Next on our level of brokenness, we got balance. So for anybody who doesn't know this card is absurd. It's so powerful. It's ludicrous. Each player. So basically, this balances the board. But the thing is that whenever you play it, like if you're playing it the correct way, it should always tip in your favor. Always. Like I have never seen this card resolve where it doesn't tip the game in the caster's favor. It's absurd. Um, like I mean, it's very common. Like when I've played it against my friend or my friend plays it against me, it's like it has all these stipulations. Like it does lands, creatures, and discarding cards. So like often, like one of those three things is against you when you cast it, but the other two things are in your favor. So like it's always going to come out great for you. It's so absurdly awesome. Next we have Brightling. So Brightling is one of like I have basically all of the Morphling creatures in my cube. I love Morphlings. They're considered not to be very powerful anymore, but I still love them and they still make a huge impact. It's actually become very surprising to me that I would actually say this one in particular, Brightling, is probably the strongest of the 5 in the cube. Actually, I have 6 because there is a gold Morphling in the cube. But I would actually say that Brightling is probably the strongest of all of them, which is very weird because it doesn't seem like it's actually as strong as what the other 6 are. But it can get like I've seen Brightling come out on turn 3 and it can end a game very, very quickly. It's very strong. Next is Day of Judgment. So there are plenty of board wiping effects in the cube. However, interesting thing about me as a player, whenever I draft board wiping effects, I 9 times out of 10 don't put them in the deck. I don't like them. I don't really. I mean, and the thing is that it's weird because I was talking about how much I love balance, but like most board wiping effects, and then balance kind of works like a board wiping effect, but most board wiping effects I'm not a fan of because I don't know, like I've had games where I would play a board wiping effect and like it would work against me because I would lose things that I thought I would be okay with losing, and it would turn out that like I would wipe the board and I'd be like, "Ha, I got you!" And then all of a sudden my opponent like starts whipping out creatures like crazy, and then I'm like, it didn't matter. So I actually avoid board wipes a lot, but that still doesn't change the fact that this card is very important in the cube. It's a very important form of removal. Swords to Plowshares. If you don't know how powerful this card is and you don't understand what it's supposed to do or like why it's so good, shame on you. That's all I'm going to say about it. Important form of removal. That's all I got to say. It's a very important form of removal, and every cube should have one. Sublime Archangel. Absurdly powerful. This is the original printing of it from M13, which is mythic rare, as you can see. They reprinted it later as a rare. Um, and in my opinion, I still think of it as a mythic rare. It's very strong. I love 4 mana angels. That's one of the first main things. A 4 mana, 4 power flying angel. Like that's the first thing that stands out to me. And then all of the BS about it having exalted and then all your other creatures having exalted. Like I've seen this guy come down on turn 4 and then it can attack for like 6 or 7 power on turn 5. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. Soul Tithe. This card is actually a very important form of removal, because it hits permanents, non-land permanents. And it's very fun. Like, it does multiple different things. It's a very important piece of removal, and it does a whole bunch of different things where um, not only is it removal, but it also drains your opponent of mana. Because there are times where like, you could play this on a really important card that is allowing your opponent to win the game, and like, yeah, it would be nice if it could remove the card, but a lot of the time, like, your opponent will be relying so heavily on the card that you play this on that they're going to tap out that mana every turn. And then, because they're so focused on tapping out their mana to keep that card alive, they don't have mana to play anything else. So, like, this card is like an ultimatum in a way. It's like, it says, well, you have two choices. You can either keep your card and not have any mana, or you can keep your mana and not have the card. Like, it's really, this card is very brutal, and I do really like it. It's a very powerful form of removal, but it's also like a land tax kind of type of card where it's like it drains your opponent's mana pool. Very, very good, powerful stuff. Spirit Link. I actually wish I had the original Legends version of this card. I do want to replace this with a Legends version. Spirit Link is so good. This card is a disguised piece of removal. You can either, like, I mean, most people would say, oh, you play this on your creature, and your creature has lifelink. Ta-da! But, like, this card does so much more than that. This card you can play on your opponent's big fat creature, and your opponent's big fat creature can't hurt you anymore. Because this card basically says you enchant a creature, whether it's yours or your opponent's, and then whenever the enchanted creature deals damage, you gain that much life. It's not its controller gains that much life, it's you, the owner of this card, gain that much life. So you can play this as removal. It's like a slightly more efficient form. Like, it's kind of like what's that card called? It's like pacifism, but it's a lot more fun, and it makes you feel a lot better when you play it. Miss Alesh Norn. That's right. I have nice art. Spirit Link is dirty. Thank you, Wrath of Wood. Yeah, I want to actually get the original Legends version of it, but I do like that one. I have another copy of Spirit Link, but I think that art is the best of the Spirit Link art that is not the original Legends. So I showed you Jin-Gitaxias earlier. Here's Alesh Norn, Jin-Gitaxias' sister. And you'll find that I own all the Praetors. I own every single one of them. I only just got the blue, black, and red one very recently, but I've owned the white and green one for a long time. Basically, I bought like 2 booster packs of Iconic Masters, and then I bought a box of Iconic Masters. Well, I didn't buy it; it was actually given to me as a gift by my sister. I bought 2 booster packs of Iconic Masters. This card was the first card I ever opened in my very first Iconic Masters booster pack. So in that weird way, she's kind of special to me. And I know Iconic Masters is a trash fire of a set, but you know what? If you open up an Alesh Norn in your very first pack of Iconic Masters, you're probably feeling pretty good about that set. So that card is very awesome. Apostle's Blessing, very, very powerful protection card. I would actually decree that this is probably one of the single most powerful protection cards ever printed. Because you can play it in any deck with any color. Because even though it's a white card, it's not actually a white card. You can play it in anything. And it can protect colored creatures, and it can protect artifacts, and it's so strong. Like, this is hands down probably the most powerful form of instant protection I've ever seen. Um, Elspeth, Knight Errant, my bae. I love this card. I adore her. I've had this card for a very long time. Me and my friends, we played like way back in the day during the Alara block, and this was actually given to me by a friend who cracked it themselves. This was not actually mine originally. But I traded them. I can't remember what I traded to them to get this, but I did trade them something that was of equal power level. And mind you, I gotta say this. I say equal power level, not equal price level. This was back in the days where value, like physical monetary value of cards, didn't exist. We basically kind of evaluated the power level of cards and then kind of like evaluated like we would say like, oh, Elspeth is this powerful, she does all this is why she's good. I'm going to trade you a card of an equal power level. So I actually got this in a legitimate trade with my friend, but I can't remember what it was that I traded to them to get this. Um, but it was, it wasn't based on monetary value. It was definitely based on like overall estimated power level. Soldier of the Pantheon. This card right here is a 1 mana MVP. Like, this card wrecks so much face. Me and my best friend were actually talking about this card the last time he was over here. We've kind of decided that this is probably the most powerful 1 mana creature in the entire cube. Probably the most powerful 1 mana creature for white in the entire cube. This guy, he's so stupid powerful, it's ridiculous. He does so much for so little, and like I've seen this guy win games on his back, like by himself. Like it's ludicrous. There's only one other contender for 1 mana white cards that comes close to this guy, and we'll definitely get to him in a little bit. But this guy, he is a one white mana all-star. Like, you do not want to be facing this guy down on turn 1. He is very scary. Oh, I love this one. This is Sarah Angel. You'll notice that it's the very beautiful, beautiful Rebecca Guay art. I bought this card special online just to put it into my cube. I know that Sarah Angel is considered to not be very good anymore, but this card has a very special place in my heart. The art is absolutely spectacular. It is the very special From the Vault foiling. You guys can probably kind of see it there in the camera. Just crazy. And this card still holds together, like, all on its own. It's still a great card. Like, I don't think I've ever played a game where I've gotten this out on the field and it didn't feel good. Like, it still holds its own to this very day. And I am totally okay with the idea that it has that little mythic sign there. Like, I know that it's printed at uncommon, but it's still a great card. Like, I don't care what people say about it. It's amazing. Curse of Exhaustion. This card is brutal. Absolutely, absolutely brutal. Like, 4 mana and you can only play 1 spell a turn. This card kills people. Like, and it's uncommon. It's uncommon. But it kills. It just murders people. It's awful. I mean, I don't think I really need to go too deep into it. I think I pulled this out of a booster pack when this set was in Standard. I think I used to put it in different kinds of commander decks. But it's in the cube now, and man, oh man, it kills people. Like, I'm not even joking about that. It straight up kills people. Guardian Seraph, which is also a foil. So this is actually probably one of my favorite angels ever printed. This card it's so strong. And I mean, it probably doesn't seem like it's that strong when you first get a look at it, but it really does a lot of work. I mean, first of all, it's a 4 mana angel, and I have a very special place for 4 mana angels. I love them. But this thing, it can basically prevent you from dying. Like, it's awesome. I can't think of any particular examples where it stood out as like the single most amazing thing ever, but it'll get work done. Like trust me. Like if you guys have never played with this particular angel, try it out. And you can get it for like $1, I think, online or something like that. Like I think like I actually owned a Guardian Seraph that I cracked in a pack a long time ago. But this foil one I bought special because this particular angel is very special to me. It's very powerful. I love playing with it, so I went online and I bought a foil copy of it because it's really strong. And I mean, like I said, I can't think of any very specific examples, but trust me, try playing with it. It's a very strong angel. Hmm. Kismet. I love this card. We're another one of my old school cards. I think if I remember correctly, this is fourth edition. I wish I had a Legends copy, but I don't. I only own the fourth edition, and I mean, like it's kind of hard to explain this card because I mean, obviously you can see the raw power it has, but it's like you can't really know how strong it is until you play with it. Like it's just a very like if you've ever played a game where you are able to force your opponent's stuff, like all their stuff to come into play tapped, it's brutal. It literally will put them back like sometimes an entire turn. Like, you could lay this down and they'll play like lands and mana ramp. They can't use their lands on the first turn. They put down like a creature. They can't use their creatures on the first turn. Like, I mean, obviously there's, summoning sickness and all that, but like if they're playing red and they have a hasted creature come out and you have a Kismet, like it does nothing. Like, the hasted creature does nothing, and it's a great feeling. Like you just, you should try it. Dispeller's Capsule. This is another one of those MVP cards. This card is probably one of the strongest forms of artifact and enchantment removal in the entire cube. Um, Very powerful card, great for balancing. Great for balancing. Like I said, like this card, I've seen this card blow up really powerful cards. Like, because we're talking about like I'm playing with like enchantments that allow you to get cards out for free. I'm playing with artifacts like Umezawa's Jeet and Skull Clamp. This card is probably one of the single most powerful and single most important pieces of removal in this entire cube. Like it's so good. I highly recommend if you build a cube and you're balancing it, you gotta get your hands on a copy of this card because it's great. It's absolutely spectacular. Um, and I mean, it's 1 mana and 3 to activate the ability. Like it's got a 3 cost for activating. But trust me, when you need it, it's there for you. Like I promise you, it's there for you. Harm's Way. This card's amazing. This is the White Shock, and I've this card actually can like completely change games on all by itself, which may sound kind of weird considering it's only 2 damage. That 2 damage can be a big deal. It can be a huge deal. One of the most absolutely amazing games I've ever seen where this card did everything. Like it literally like this card. One time there was a game where this card killed me. And what happened was one of the cards in the artifacts, I'll just go ahead and spoil it right now. There's an Isochron Scepter in here. For anybody who doesn't know what an Isochron Scepter is, it's a 2 mana artifact that can imprint a instant card that costs 2 mana or less, and then you can repeat the instant over and over and over again. Like you can just like tap 2 mana, tap the Isochron Scepter, use that instant. One of my best friend played an Isochron Scepter with Harm's Way imprinted on it, and he won the game because the Harm's Way imprinted on the Scepter would turn the tide of battle for him every single combat step. It was ridiculous. So don't underestimate the White Shock. It's crazy good. Path to Exile. I feel like you guys should probably know this card. Very important. It's really important removal. It's probably about as important and about as useful as Swords to Plowshares. Definitely play with this card. Obviously powerful. Removal is obviously powerful. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. Like, if you don't know how this card works or like why it's so good, shame on you. Spear of Heliod. Uh, Great card. This is like creatures you control get +1/+1, and it's also removal. What's not to like about it? Like, it's just it's great. I mean, I don't know what to tell you other than it's great. Just play with it. O-Ring, classic O-Ring. This is my favorite printing of O-Ring because I actually own multiple different printings of O-Ring, but this one's my favorite. The Lorwyn version is pretty nice, which is the original print, but I like this one the best. It's great removal. Like, just play with it. Like, I don't know if I need to say too much about it, but O-Ring is one of those top tier forms of removal. It's common, by the way. It's a common card. So, I mean, you gotta play with it. You need it for balance. So I mentioned earlier about the 1-mana white MVP. I think it was called Hero of the Pantheon that I was showing you. And remember before I mentioned that me and my friend were kind of trying to figure out if it was the most powerful white 1-mana creature. So this is its competitor. This is like the second place MVP 1-mana creature. Steplinks. This card is so obscenely powerful for 1 white mana. And, like, it's super funny because, like, people who are not used to seeing this card might not think too much of it, but that landfall, like, it gets very crazy very, very quickly. This card is ludicrous. It's just very strong. Like, I've seen this guy get as big I've seen this guy be like a 4-power creature before. It's ridiculous. And even if it doesn't get to be that big, if you can swing with it for 2 like every turn, it can get very much out of control. Like, I've seen people, like, the thing that makes it so good is that people are scared to use removal on this guy because he's so small and itty bitty. But if you let him stick around too long, he's gonna kill you. Like, I'll just be straight up about it. Classic Disenchant. It's very important removal. Nothing too amazing about it. It's 2 mana, destroy target artifact or enchantment, instant speed. I like this art. I love this art. And that's the main reason why I have this particular version of Disenchant in this cube, is the art, actually. That right there is a Mox Sapphire. And I'm not even joking. It is literally, that art is a Mox Sapphire. Like, if I were to pull out my copy of Mox Sapphire, you can very clearly see that is absolutely the same art for Mox Sapphire. There it is. It's really crazy. And that's no joke, like, why I love this particular Disenchant, is because it's got the Mox Sapphire art. Here, let me go ahead and kind of put them next to each other. You can even see, like, the little nubs on the side of the Sapphire, and then sure enough, on the art for this Disenchant, there are those little nubs on the side, the little gold nubs. So that's why I love this Disenchant, is literally just because of the art. But obviously strong removal is very obvious and strong, so play with it, trust me. Fiend Hunter, very important removal. Not much to say about it. It's always worth the cost that it costs, even though it's only a 1/3. It's got a nice big fat booty, so you can throw monsters at it all day for a while until you get that 3 power range. But very powerful removal. Do not underestimate it. Use it for balancing. Precinct. I'm sorry. I'm kind of trying to go a little faster because we're still on white and it's been some time. Precinct Captain. Very powerful 2 mana 2/2 first striker. Obviously strong card is obvious. We're now back into like we went through a bunch of removal. This is a powerhouse card. Just trust me when I say you gotta play with it. Like, it's it makes tokens. It's got first strike. It's 2 for 2. Like, just play with it. Trust me. Magus of the Disc. This is another card that I actually don't play with that often. I've definitely gotten it multiple times, like many times in my cube, and it's a board wiper. It's basically a white Nivinroll Larry Niven's disc. Um, it's trying to get to focus here, and it's not really focusing. Uh, Come on. Just at least get those words. There it is. Okay. So destroy all artifacts, creatures, and enchantments. It's a board wipe, and it's an important board wipe. But I don't really like playing with it. I really don't. Still a good card, though. You know, like, for anybody who likes board wipes or utilizes board wipes a lot, this guy's very good. Definitely play with it. Loyal Sentry. This card's amazing. It's so amazing. This is a white mana 1/1 that it says when it blocks a creature, you destroy that creature and Loyal Sentry. This guy overrides combat damage. He's ridiculous. He's absolutely ridiculous. When you deal with a Loyal Sentry, combat damage doesn't matter. It's not calculated. It's literally blockers. Like, you figure out what your blockers are, and Loyal Sentry blocks whatever you want it to block. And then after you choose blockers, the creatures both die. Like, Loyal Sentry dies, and the creature you're blocking Loyal Sentry with dies. There's no combat damage that causes the death. It's ridiculous. And that may seem like not a huge deal, but when you're dealing with cards that require priority during the combat damage calculation step, this guy makes a huge difference. Like, he's ridiculous. Like, I mean, you know, I wouldn't say he's necessary. Like, he is a form of removal, but he's got like some sneaky shenanigans to him that you have to see to believe. It's ridiculous. This guy's brand new. I mean, in the sense that I've actually owned this card for a long time, but he's brand new to the cube. I actually updated my cube not too long ago, and this guy was one of the new additions I brought in. This is Frontline Medic, and he's pretty darn strong. He's a 3 mana 3/3 battalion, so he can, when him and at least 2 other creatures attack, all creatures you control have indestructible this turn. And also you can sacrifice him to counter target spell with X in its mana cost unless its controller pays 3. This guy's a big deal. First of all, he makes it so that your creatures can't die, which is really nice. He's a 3 mana 3/3, which is right off the bat real nice. And he's also control against X costs, which is like, there are some pretty hefty X CMC cards in here. And he just says flat out no to them. Like, I've seen people tap out for like Hydras, and he'll just be like, nope, stop it, I don't like it. Moat. Yeah, that's a moat. Do not mess with the moat. This is a very, very strong card. For anybody who's never seen it, stand in awe of its fantastic and ridiculous power. Moat is just ridiculous. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It can literally put an entire game, like, it can put the brakes on a game, straight up. And the thing is, too, is that also that I've played games where I get, like, Moat and, like, Sarah Angel and, like, a bunch of angels and flying creatures, and you're just nigh unstoppable. Like, I mean, you just throw down the Moat, and then you continue to ravage your opponent with flying creatures, and they can't do anything. And then you just save all your removal for any flyers they might have. Like, Moat is ridiculous. Suture Priest. This card is evil. Absolute, like, evil. Just total, complete, absolute evil. This card kills. It can kill people. Let me get it to focus a little bit. There we go. So whenever another creature, it's a 2 mana 1/1. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may gain 1 life. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, they lose 1 life. This card's killed me before. Like, one time I played a game where my friend had this card out on the field, and the majority of the game I didn't like have a way to get rid of it, and like I couldn't deal with it, and he kept putting out threats that were much scarier than the Suture Priest, even though the Suture Priest was killing me. And I would constantly use all my removal on all the things that they were putting out, and not the Suture Priest. And then I had a turn where I had a like a card that generated a whole bunch of creature tokens. and I wanted to play it, but I for like one turn forgot that this guy was on the field, and I generated like 7 tokens plus the creature that made those 7 tokens, and I took 8 damage to like 8 life loss to the face, and it literally killed me. And I was like, my friend was like I'll never forget it because I was like, I played this card, yeah, and I was like, I make 7 tokens, and he's like, dude, you're dead, and I was like, what? And he's like, dude, Suture Priest, and I was like, no, and I like literally forgot that it was there. It was so bad. I can be a sloppy player sometimes, I'll admit it. Um, hmm. Keep forgetting I have coffee here. Give me a second. I'm going to drink some of this. Okay. History of Benalia. I cracked this open in a booster pack, and I feel like this is a card you guys should probably know. This is very recent. Um, Very, very strong. Like, it doesn't... Like, what's really interesting is because when I first saw this card, like, in... when it was first released and they were showing off it as a spoiler, I actually didn't think this card was going to be very strong. This card is super strong. And I was like saying to myself that like, oh, History of Benalia isn't that strong. Like, you got to be playing with knights for this card to be strong. No. This is what we call a one-card combo. It creates creatures that it synergizes with, and then it boosts them up, and then you can essentially swing for 8 on like the last turn that it's out. It's literally a one-card combo. Like, this card, like, do not underestimate the power of this card. It is this card standing all by itself, all alone, even in the cube. It's obscenely powerful. Um, Dauntless Bodyguard. This card's very hit or miss. This is another one of those one-mana powerhouses, but it's really weird because I've seen games where it's very strong, and then I've seen games where it doesn't do anything. So it's kind of just like, if you, I would say 9 times out of 10, look at this card as a 1-mana 2/1. If you look at it as a 1-mana 2/1, you'll be a lot more comfortable with it, because there are plenty of times where you never get to utilize its other ability, which is it can make a card temporarily indestructible by protecting it. But there are plenty of times where it never gets to do that. So, but it's useful, so I keep it in. Seal Away. Very powerful removal. Powerful white removal. Instant speed, exiling for a tapped creature. Very strong. Great removal. Temporal Isolation. This is another great piece of removal. Very, very strong. I've seen this card just murdered. It's like, it seems like it's like not as powerful as Seal Away, but I trust me when I say that this card is very strong. It's like an instant speed pacifism almost. So I would definitely say it's very strong. Knight Captain of Eos. I really like this guy. He is a token generator. See if I can kind of get the focus. There we go. He creates 2 1/1s, and you can sacrifice those soldiers. You can sacrifice any soldier to him to prevent combat damage. Very, very useful. I mean, I will admit, he's 5 mana for 4 power total. He's a 2/2 that makes 2 1/1s. But it's that prevent damage ability that really makes him very strong. So I keep him in. He's very good. Pure Steel Paladin. Do not mess with this guy. So strong. He's 2 mana, 2/2, draws you cards for equipment, and also makes equipment into 0. Crazy, crazy strong. Like, he's scary strong. Like, way, way scary strong. Sun Titan. This guy is also very crazy strong. There we go. Oop, kind of got him off camera. Hold on. There we go. He basically... Why am I not getting it in frame? There we go. He can basically reanimate stuff whenever he enters the battlefield or attacks. Way strong. I don't know if I really need to explain him. He's crazy good. War Priest of Thune. I love this guy. Here's the thing that I was going to talk about when it comes to removal. Even cards like this, which you might think might not be that good, like there are a lot of people who would say like, "Oh, this guy's not good." Like you would never want to throw him in a deck, but he's very important. He also has a red counterpart, and just crazy important to play with. Destroys enchantments when you summon him. Very useful. Attended Knight. This is one of my favorite white commons of all time. He's 3 mana for 3 power. He's a 2/2 with first strike, and he also makes a 1/1 soldier token. This guy's great. Like he's fantastic. Like I've never like it's one of those cards where like he seems reasonable as a common, but he also seems like he's standing on the line of like what makes like the standing on the line between a common and an uncommon. Like he's very Attendant Knight is a very strong white card. Sunblast Angel. Now, sadly, Rebecca is not in this stream right now, but this is the Sunblast Angel that Rebecca sent me in the mail. It's a foil. It's a promotional foil, and it's a board wipe, and very, very, very strong. Yeah, Sunblast Angel, good to go. Restoration Angel. This guy's very strong. Hey, Rebecca! Did you see? See the Restoration Angel? Isn't she pretty? She's in the cube. There she is in all of her glory. She's super pretty and I love her. Thank you, Rebecca. You rock. Moving on. Restoration Angel. This guy's great. Very, very strong in this cube. I love Restoration Angel. It's another one of those angels. Like, here's the thing that I like. I love 4 mana angels. I've said that a couple times now. I love 4 mana angels. Moves at instant speed. It's a flying 3/4. It can protect your creatures from removal. It can protect your creatures from combat damage. It can trigger, enters the battlefield abilities. It's so good. Like Restoration Angel, great card. I actually love the original art better than this one. But the thing is that the original copy of this card is actually pretty expensive. So I have yet to get my hands on one, but I might do that in the future. Sarah the Benevolent. This was a card I obtained not too long ago. I adore this card. It's Sarah the Benevolent. Like, I mean, what's not to like about her? 4 mana planeswalker. She makes Sarah angels. She boosts up flying creatures, and she's also got the worship as a final ability. She's fantastic. Like, and by the way, she is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Like everything that the original white goddess should be. Absolutely spectacular. We have our classic Wallet Slayer. Now you'll notice this is an original print. This is from M10. This is a Wallet Slayer, Baneslayer Angel. And I opened this in a booster pack. I will never forget it. Me and my friends, we went hard on M10. We bought, I think, like 2 or 3 boxes of M10. And we actually, if I remember correctly, we opened 3 Baneslayer Angels across all of the booster packs that we opened. And I only got to keep 1 of them. My friends got to keep the other 2. But I still love this Baneslayer Angel because this was, in fact, like the one Baneslayer Angel I got to keep out of the 3 that we got is, in fact, this is the one I cracked myself. I opened it in a booster pack. So I adore this Baneslayer Angel. It's very special to me. I've had it for a long time. Captain of the Watch. Crazy, crazy. Baneslayer was goddamn massive when it came out. First mythic to break the $50 mark. Yeah, that's very true. By the way, hi, Magic Historian. Yeah, well, that's why we call her Wallet Slayer. I don't think she's worth that much anymore, though, because power creep is so insane above her now that, like, she's just your average mythic angel, I guess. But I do like it. It's, like I said, I opened it myself, and that's why I like it so much. I don't know whatever happened to the other 2. I mean, obviously my friends kept them, so, I mean, I don't have them. But yeah, she's ridiculous. This card single-handedly swings games in one direction or another. It's ludicrous. Captain of the Watch. This is a favorite of mine. I actually really love this card. Um, this card is ludicrously strong. So it's 6 mana for basically a 3/3 that makes other three. It makes three other 3/3s, and then it gives all the other three. I mean, I'm sorry. Okay, it's a 3/3 that makes 3/1/1 soldier tokens that also get +1/+1 and have vigilance. So it's basically let's see, 2, 4, 6, 9. So this is basically like 9 power for 6 mana. It's crazy strong. I remember the first time I saw this card, like when we cracked it open in a booster, and I thought that it was so bogus overpowered. Like I remember one of my friends built a deck of like 4 of these guys. I only have the one here, but one of my friends used to have 4 of these bad bitches in a single deck, and she destroyed people. Stealing my stream concepts. Listen here. How to do it. Oh, I see. At first I thought you were making fun of me, and now you're commending me for stealing it. That's so funny. You crack me up, man. Oh, jeez. Seeing the white card reminds me of Aurelia Ed deck? Aurelia? I don't remember that. I don't remember Aurelia Ed deck. Is that like a card that I'm not aware of? That might be it. So this card is really interesting. This is a foil Gleam of Resistance. And there's something very important about this card. Like, so most people would be like, why would you have that piece of shit card in your cube? Let me tell you, this right here, this ability, Basic Land Cycling in white for 2, is why this card is here. I have all of the basic land cycling cards from this set. Aurelia War Leader. Oh, okay. I don't remember. Oh, wait. Aurelia was the angel from Ravnica, wasn't it? That's who that is. But anyways, yeah. So basic land cycling for 2 on a white card. And I have all of them except for the green one. I do own the green one, but the green one sucks. So, like, I don't have it in the cube. But I have the white one, the blue one, the black one, and the red one. And this basic land cycling for 2 in white is very, very strong. Do not underestimate this. Also, there was a game where me and my best friend were playing, and he actually played the main card as an instant on his combat step to give them all his creatures +1/+2. And he actually used this to get in the final damage to kill me in one game. So this card's great. Like, definitely play with it. It's very powerful in a cube. It's the land cycling is really what makes this card very, very strong. Evangelize. So this card is EDH autocorrect hates me. Aurelia to combating. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Evangelize, this card is very strong. This card can, you would think that the fact that it says an opponent's choice would make this card weak, but actually, it makes this card even better. So the thing is that this cube, there's a rule about this cube. There are no bad creatures. Every creature in this cube is fantastic. So, with that knowledge at hand, that every single creature in the deck is fantastic, you have to keep in mind that it's really hard when your opponent has to look at his entire board of creatures and say to himself, oh my god, what am I willing to give up? I don't know. And that's what makes it so fun, is because you don't have to be the person to make the choice. Your opponent has to make the choice. And it's like it screws with them. It's like adding insult to injury. Not only are you ruining their board state and stealing something from them, but you also have to force them to choose how they're going to ruin their board state. And a lot of the time, too, is you can get if you're playing this card right, you're going to get that buy bot back off 2 or 3 times. These games go on super long, and you'll probably be able to play this card at least 2 or 3 times in a single game. It's very powerful. Very demoralizing. This card is very demoralizing. And the last white card is Journey to Nowhere. This is just removal. Um, Nothing too special about it. Like I said, like you need to have your removal. You got to. You gotta have. Hold on. You gotta have your removal. You have to. This one is kind of the most bland piece of removal in white, but it serves its purpose. You gotta have it. Saw the Alesh Norn, laughed at the misery I caused with it. Yeah, Alesh Norn is great. I love her. She was actually the first Praetor I ever owned. But I do love her a lot, and I have all the Praetors in this cube. Let's see, it's about 6:30. I'm going to try and steamroll through the next color. Should we just go ahead and go on to the next color, or do you guys want to see something like the gold cards, or the lands, or the artifacts instead? I'm trying to figure out what would be fun to go through. I have some pretty degenerate blue cards if you guys just want to move on to the next color. I have some blue cards that would just like if you had them played against you, you would just get straight up angry. Like there's one card in particular I added. I'm just going to move on to blue. It's fine. I do have some blue cards in here that are straight degenerate. Like they're straight up degeneracy. But the thing is, it's really nice is because the cube, everything in the cube is powerful. So I have all day. Let's do blue. Okay, cool. Ice cold coffee. Give me just a second. I'm going to pour my next cup of coffee. Coffee. I love doing this. It's really relaxing to just kind of sit here and go over all of my favorite cards and have some coffee and hanging out with people that I like hanging out with. You guys rock. Delicious. Delicious. Delicious, delicious coffee. See, that's the thing. When my coffee gets like lukewarm to cold, I just start chugging it, and it's like a totally different experience than if I was drinking it hot. But it's all the same to me because I love it. But anyways, yeah, I have some really degenerate blue cards. We'll go over them in just a minute. So, Jingai Taxis, I kind of already went over him. This guy is really interesting. So me and my best friends, we kind of agreed that Jingai Taxis is actually the worst of the five Praetors, which is funny because he also seems like he's the most powerful when you think about it. But the thing that makes Jingai Taxis the worst of the five is he will kill you. Like, if you cast Jingai Taxis and you don't have a way to regulate his drawing capabilities, he'll kill you. Like, he will kill you. I've seen it happen. It sucks. So yeah, the draw. It was really funny. I actually played a game where my best friend had Jingai Taxis, and he was not aware of the needing to draw 7 cards every turn, like every single turn. And once he realized that that was absolutely required, and part of it too was he also didn't realize that he, for some reason, thought that Jingai Taxis allowed him to have no maximum hand size. He just didn't read the card fully, which happens sometimes. I've done that a few times for other cards where I don't read them all the way and I get mistaken. But he mistook Jingai Taxis' ability to allow you to have no maximum hand size. And so he was playing like as if he was not allowed to have a hand size. And once he found out that, I was like, no, dude, like, you have a maximum hand size. So, like, you have to still discard down to 8, like, every turn. And he's like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, dude. And he was like, oh, well, fuck this card. And he literally went through the deck, pulled Jingai Taxis out, and threw it aside. And he's like, I'm not playing with that shit. That thing will kill me. And I thought it was so funny. But yeah, Jingai Taxis, he'll kill you. It's up in the air between Jin and Vorinclex. I think in EDH, Vorinclex is depraved. Yeah, we kind of talked about it, and we both kind of decided that Vorinclex is better than Jingai Taxis. But, like, it's literally, like we kind of decided Alesh Norn is the best one. The red one, Urabrask, is the second best one. Sheoldred is the third, and then Vorinclex and then Jingai Taxis is the worst. And it's literally the only reason why Jin-Gitaxias is the worst is because he'll kill you. Like, that's the only reason. He's the only Parator that will kill you if you don't know how to maintain him. Next is Dungeon Geist. This card is very strong. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this card or played with it. It kills. It kills. It's very so for its mana cost, it's removal, and on top of it being removal, it's also extremely aggressive. It's a flying 3/3 in blue, which you should not underestimate. Like, I mean, oh, it's like an air elemental, and it's like, well, it'll still kill you. Like, that's the thing. It will, like, it's removal and it's aggressive. It will kill you. So great card, great card. Wonder, and these are like the various incarnations I have. They are all original prints from the original sets. I actually opened these years and years ago, back when Judgment was around. Great card. Wonder is probably my favorite of the collection. Basically, if you have an island and this is in your graveyard, all creatures you control have flying. 4 mana, 2/2 flyer. Great card. Definitely play with it. Memory Lapse. Okay. So I don't know if I've ever talked to you guys about this card before. This card is my favorite counterspell of all time. I love it. It's the best, like, in my opinion. Like, I know there's tons of arguments against it, but in my opinion, this is the best counterspell ever printed. And the reason why I think that it's the best counterspell ever printed is because I don't see it as an actual counterspell. So, and like, I love talking about this card. I've talked about this card multiple times with my friends who don't get it. And there's always the classic person, there's always at least like one person I talk to about this card that's like, but if you play Memory Lapse, they're just going to cast it again next turn. And I'm like, yeah, they'll cast it again next turn. So what that means is you invalidated their turn. So, like, in my mind, Memory Lapse, like, and I know this is a stretch, but this is no joke how I see this card and why I love this card so much. Memory Lapse is in my opinion, is a 2 mana instant speed time walk. Okay? Now, the way that I present that to you is that this card, let's say somebody's casting a spell, like, and you use Memory Lapse. So, and if you're on curve and your opponent is on curve, like when I say on curve, let's say it's turn 3 and they have 3 lands out and they're casting a 3 mana spell. So they tap out for 3, they cast their 3 mana spell, and then you hit it with a Memory Lapse. Okay? So what you just did is you ended their turn. They had to tap out 3 mana to cast a spell. The spell got countered and was put back on top of their deck. So you invalidated their spell, you invalidated their mana, and you invalidated their next draw. You literally ended their turn. Like, that's why this card is so good. And it's the best. It's like, not even joking. Like, when I'm not even joking when I tell people this is, in my Memory Lapse, in my opinion, is an instant speed time walk. And that's why I love this card. It's my favorite counterspell ever printed. Ever. Like, it's just amazing. And I do also have to say, I own like 4 copies of this card. They were given to me by a friend a long, long time ago in the early days of Magic. I have the one that has the famous art with the purple brain and all the pieces coming out of the purple brain. This one, however, is my favorite of the art because this is the Rebecca Guay art. This is a very early Rebecca Guay piece, which means you can actually kind of tell the difference between this and other Rebecca Guay pieces. Like, for example, like, compare this to the Sarah Angel that I showed you earlier, and you can definitely see stark contrasts between the styles of art simply based on the age that the art is. So this is my favorite art for this card, and this is my favorite counterspell ever printed. I adore this counterspell. It's amazing. And like I said, like, not only is it an incredibly powerful counterspell, but also it's a great card for teaching people, like, how Magic works. It's like because there are a lot of people who like say, well, they'll just cast a spell on the next turn. It's like, oh boy, I have a cool lesson to teach you right now about how magic works. So I adore this card. It's fantastic. You can win if you put the right card on the top. The card gives you 2 free turns. Yes, that's exactly right, Pink Peacock. That's exactly right. That's why I love Memory Lapse. It's a great card. Inkwell Leviathan. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen this card. It's very stupid strong, it's monstrous, and it's very intimidating to fight against. There are a lot of really interesting reasons why this card is in here. Um, Besides the fact that it's a big fat fatty for blue, there are plenty of ways in this cube to cheat this card into play. Like, 9 times out of 10, when you get this card, you're never going to play it for its actual mana cost. Like, if you're playing it right, you're not going to play it for its actual mana cost. There are so many ways to cheat this into play. And it's actually funny because most of the ways to cheat this card into play are in blue. You will see them in this blue section. Mana Drain. Oh yeah. Classic. I wish I owned an actual mana, like an old, well, this is an actual Mana Drain. This is from Iconic Masters. But I wish I owned like the one from Legends. This is obviously not a Legends Mana Drain. This is an Iconic Masters Mana Drain. But crazy, broken, powerful counterspell is crazy, broken, powerful counterspell. I feel like you guys should probably know what it does. Classic counterspell, sucks up all the mana, gives it to you next turn. That's that. I don't know what else to tell you. It's strong. It's strong. Inkwell, Aetherling is the other, this one's foil. I told you guys I have all of the Morphling creatures in this cube. I actually do own an original blue Morphling, but it's not in this cube because I have Aetherling instead. I only wanted one for each color, so I didn't want to put Aetherling and Morphling in blue. So even though I kind of told you guys the white one is the most powerful of all of them, the white one, like, is frequently the one that will kill the most often. However, in like direct power level, this one's the most powerful. Like in an obvious kind of way. A lot of the time, if you play this card correctly, it'll never die. Like you can't, like, once this hits the board, it'll pretty much never die. And the thing is that what I tell people about this card too is that this card is not a 6. Like, you'll see that the mana cost is 6. You should never ever play this card for 6 mana. You should always play it for 7. And I mean, that might seem kind of weird, but you want to have the 6 mana to have the card enter the battlefield, obviously, but you need the 7th mana for this ability down here. Because if you play this card and you don't have that 7th blue mana to, like, keep it alive, it's going to die. Like, you have to be able to protect it. But, like, if you can play it for 6 and have 1 blue mana open so that you can keep it alive, this thing will win you the game. Like, it's very obscenely powerful. Like, it's scary how good this card. There's only a few cards that can actually kill this card. Like, let's see, I'm trying to think of, like, for example, Pithing Needle could kill it. And a counterspell will kill it, obviously. But other than, like, a Pithing Needle and a counterspell, and by the way, there are no Pithing Needles in this cube, but other than a Pithing Needle and a counterspell, pretty much nothing will kill it. Then we have Niblis of the Breath. There are, like, a whole cycle of Niblis from Innistrad. This one, in my opinion, is the most powerful of the 5, so it's the only one that's actually in the cube. 3 mana, 2/1 flyer, and you may tap or untap target creature. It's very good. Exile removal. No, so I assume you're talking about Aetherling. Exiling will not kill Aetherling. Let me show you real quick, Peacock. You got to pay attention to the first ability. So exile Aetherling, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So as long as you have mana to exile Aetherling, nothing can kill it. Like, you can't kill it. It's ridiculous. Like as long as you have mana to protect him, you can fizzle anything that targets him. The only thing that can kill Eitherling is counterspells and pithing needles. Pithing needles, I mean, they don't directly kill Eitherling, but they will allow you to shut down all of his abilities so that you can afford to actually target him. But other than that, Eitherling's a blue juggernaut. So yeah, Niblis of the Breath. Yeah, it's ridiculous, Peacock. It's a ridiculously powerful Morphling card. And the best part is, it's not very expensive. So if you wanted to pick up a copy, you could probably get it for a couple bucks. Niblis of the Breath, I was saying, is, in my opinion, the most powerful of the Niblis. So it's the only one in the cube. It can tap or untap creatures. Great. Like, fantastic. Like, that's all you really need. I mean, there's all sorts of weird strategies you can come up with this guy for. It's pretty awesome. Levitation, frequently comboed with Moat. I have had a game where I actually played Moat and Levitation in the same game. Let me kind of... There we go. Creatures you control have flying. That's simple. You can play Moat, and then you can play Levitation, and then you proceed to win the game. That's it. Nothing else. So I mentioned talking about Inkwell Leviathan and how it's common to cheat him out. This is one of the cards that you can cheat him out with. Now, once he's out in play, you can't target him with Master Transmuter again. Oh wait, maybe you can. Return Anne? I don't think this targets. Oh, that's scary. I don't think I've ever noticed that before. I think Master Transmuter can bring Leviathan back to your hand. Which is crazy, because Inkwell Leviathan has Shroud, but you can override the Shroud so long as you don't target. So, it's very possible that Master Transmuter can just override that. Master Transmuter is great. Besides the fact that you can cheat things into play with her, she can also protect herself. Because, like, you can choose to return her to your hand and also put another card out into play. So, if somebody tries to hit her with spot removal, you can just tap her and return her to your hand. Great card. Also, this is one of my favorite pieces of art of all time. This is Chippy, who is also one of my favorite artists. I've actually talked about Chippy a lot. Here, let me kind of... There we go. Beautiful. Another thing that's really interesting about this card that I've seen people mention before in the past, if you put her on her side, the circle and the line, it's like the Phyrexian symbol. There are a lot of people who say, like, she combos with lots of Phyrexian cards, and it's ironic because she has the Phyrexian symbol in her art. And I love Phyrexia, so I think that's really funny. And that's also kind of funny, too, because Chippy has done lots and lots of Phyrexian art. He's done tons of Phyrexian art. Deceiver Exarch, great, powerful, ridiculous card. Moves at instant speed for 3. He's got a big fat booty. He's a 1/4. And when he enters the battlefield, you can untap a permanent you control, or you can tap target permanent an opponent controls. Me and my friends have a nickname for this guy. We call him the nail in the coffin. This guy by himself doesn't win you games. However, he's frequently, like I said, he's called the nail in the coffin. He frequently puts you in a situation where you can win the game, but you just need that teeny tiny extra little push to get you to win the game. This guy is that little teeny tiny extra push that allows you to win the game. So yeah, he's very strong. Moves at instant speed, big fat booty, and can tap or untap permanents. He's ridiculous. And also another key component of him is he's a 3-mana creature that moves at instant speed. So he's very common to be played when you can't play a counterspell. So like you would hold out your mana for like a counterspell, and like you might not counter a spell, but you might instead cast your Deceiver Exarch to do some kind of shenanigans. Very strong. Ithorize. This card is very, very strong. It's a very powerful instant. Let's see if it'll focus. Return all attacking creatures to their owner's hand. Instant speed, 4 mana. What else do you need? what what else do you need? Like, this card wins games. Like, I don't know what else to say. It wins games. Realm Right. This is one of the most powerful 1 mana blue creatures in the entire cube. Mana fixes like crazy. Just basically, you name off a land that you need, and he turns all of your lands into whatever land color you need. It's that simple. I've also seen this guy get off in ways where he'll fix you for a color that you need, and then you realize you don't need that color as much as you need to, and he comes back to your hand. Like, you can do something like Restoration Angel, and you can flicker him, and he'll come back and fix you for a different color. Hey, Hell for Gamers, good to see you, dude. Welcome to the stream. We're kind of going over the cube, looking at bonkers cards. Sleep. I think you guys should probably know this card because it's been reprinted a few times. I think it was reprinted recently. This is another card that wins games. Tap all creatures target player controls. Those creatures don't untap during that player's next untap step. Oh yeah, I've seen him get off. You can quote me on that, Hellx. You can say I've seen this guy get off. He gets off hard. This card is another card that wins games. Like this is like, you can play, like, if your board state in blue is set up right to like come in for the win, you can cast a Sleep and then end the game. Like, this card is strong. It's kind of like it's in its own right like a blue board wipe, kind of. Like, it'll win you games. Soul Barrier. This is a card that I have had for a very, very long... I've actually had this card since my childhood. So it's a 4 mana enchantment that says when... oh, I'm sorry. It's a 3 mana enchantment. My bad. Whenever target opponent successfully casts a summon spell... by the way, this is how old school this card is. A summon spell, for anybody who doesn't know, is a creature spell. So, Soul Barrier deals 2 damage to him or her. That player may pay 2 extra mana to prevent this damage. This card's great. Like, it's very, very good. And it's also one of the... Like, I've had this card in my collection since I was a kid. This was given to me by the person who first taught me how to play Magic. Very strong card. It does a lot of work. It's only 3 mana. Like, you're going to want to play it. Trust me. So... Earlier, I was talking about really degenerate blue cards, like cards that literally, like, degenerate blue cards that make people want to quit games. This is one of them. This is called Forbid. This is from, I believe this is Judgment. This is a cancel with buyback. And last time my best friend came over and we played, I had this card in my deck. I had a game where I cast this card, I think, 3 or 4 times across the entirety of the game, and it ruined him. Absolutely ruined him. It was devastating. Like, and the best part about this card, too, like, this is what makes this card so great, is besides the fact that this card is obscenely powerful. Like, this card is so powerful that it's probably one of the single-handed most degenerate blue cards I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, hands down. Like, the best part about this card is that when you play it, like, somebody will be like, I cast blah, 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 and, like, your response is, I forbid it. Like, you get the best feeling when you can tell somebody, I forbid it. It's so easy to buy back. Like, I had this one game, like, I had that game that I told you where I got to cast this card, like, 4 times across the entire game. I had my setup so that I was drawing so many cards every turn. Like, I would be drawing, like, 3 or 4 cards a turn, and I would be able to, like, throw cards away to forbid, and it was so bonkers. Like, it was wrong. Like, it was so bad. But the thing is that makes it, like, this card in the cube is balanced. Like, and I know that sounds kind of ridiculous because I keep saying this is one of the most degenerate blue cards you will ever play with. Um, you have to keep in mind, remember what I said earlier, there is no such thing as a bad card in this cube. Every card is important. So when you cast Forbid and you buy back, the buyback cost is discarding 2 cards. So you basically have to, like, you have to make a really important moral decision. You have to say to yourself that countering a spell and buying that counter back is more important than 2 extremely powerful cards in your hand. Now think about that. Like, that means that you have to be willing to sacrifice really powerful cards that could win you the game for the purpose of countering a spell. Like, that's a big deal. So that, like, the buyback cost of Forbid is literally what balances this card, as weird as it sounds. Because, like, you could cast Forbid and buy back out of desperation, and that level of desperation could kill you because it might put you out of cards that could have brought you back and won you the game. So you have to make really important, like a really important strategic moral decision when you cast this card. So yes, this card is very powerful, it's very degenerate, but it is technically balanced within this cube. It is balanced literally by its own buyback cost. Ridiculous card. Ridiculous. Courier's Capsule. So I showed you the Dispeller's Capsule, which is the white artifact that blew up enchantments and artifacts, which I said is super powerful as enchantment and artifact removal. I own all of them, all of the capsules, but the thing is that there are only 3 of them. There's a blue one, a white one, and a black one. This is the blue one. Now, it might seem like it's not very powerful. It draws you 2 cards. This card is very useful. Like, I was actually worried that, because I would say that out of the 3 capsules, this one is the weakest. But even though it is the weakest of the 3 capsules, it's still very good. Like, I don't think I've ever cast this capsule and used it, and I don't think I've ever felt bad about it, ever. And my friend who's played with it says the same thing. We both love this card. It's great. And I mean, 4 mana to draw 2 cards might not seem like much, but let me tell you, it really works out. Like, it really helps out. Like, I don't know. I like this card, and I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of other cards that could be better than it, but I like having it because it completes the cycle of all the capsules in the deck, and also, I mean, in the cube. And on top of that, I've never felt bad about using it. It's great. Capsize. This is another very powerful, degenerate blue buyback spell. It's kind of hard to decide whether or not Forbid is more powerful than this. They kind of both work in different ways and have their own kind of power levels. This card gets really ridiculous. 3 mana, return target permanent to its owner's hand, buy back 3. This card will save you at 3 mana, like, when you desperately need it. But when you're in late game and mana doesn't matter anymore, you can cast this for 6, like, every turn, and it can win you a game. Like, it can straight win you a game. Like, don't mess with Capsize. It's very powerful. I mean, when I say don't mess, I mean don't doubt it. Don't doubt its power. It's a very strong card. Sage of Epicure. This is probably, I would say this is probably my favorite 1-mana wizard in the cube. This ability to look at 4 cards and then put them back in any order is very strong. It feels amazing to play this card on the first turn. Absolutely amazing. Like, I could never replace this creature with any other creature. It's too good. Like, this card is way too good. Feels amazing on turn 1. Spell Burst. This is another buyback counterspell. And I would say that when it comes to Forbid and Capsize, I would say Forbid and Capsize are both way more powerful than Spellburst. But Spellburst kind of has its own interesting little power level. Here, let me kind of There we go. So it's an X counterspell, and it counterspells with mana cost X. So the thing about Spell Burst is that yeah, it has a buyback of 3. Most people who have played with this card in the cube never use its buyback. They use it as, and I mean myself included. I have also used this card and not used its buyback. It's way efficient. It's very efficient as a counter spell for one go. Um, but it's really hard to use it as a counter spell and get the buyback to work at the same time. But as just a regular X-based counterspell, it's great. Like, it does exactly what it needs to do. Trinket Mage, classic powerhouse 3-mana blue wizard card. Trinket Mage will tutor you a Black Lotus. It will tutor you any of the Moxen. It'll tutor you a Skull Clamp. It'll tutor you. What other broken artifacts do I have in here? It'll tutor you a Paradise Mantle. There are so many 1 mana and 0 mana artifacts in this cube, and Trinket Mage will tutor all of them. Very powerful blue card. Vapor Snag, the strictly better unsummon. It's a strictly better unsummon. I'm not going to say much else about it. It's just an unsummon that is better. It allows, a 1 life loss. Yeah, I mean, it's great. Like, I mean, I've used it on my opponents and I've used it on myself. When I use it on my opponents, it sucks when they lose the life for them. And when I've used it on myself and I lose 1 life, I don't feel bad about losing that 1 life. So it's great. Tinker. Everybody should know Tinker if you've never seen it before. Broken card is very, very broken. I was talking about Inkwell Leviathan and how there are multiple ways to cheat it into play. This is hands down the easiest way to cheat an Inkwell Leviathan into play. You can play yourself a Mox Sapphire, and then on turn 2 you can cast a Tinker, sacrifice your Mox Sapphire, and turn it into an Inkwell Leviathan. Not much else to say. I mean, there are also other really powerful, like, I can give you another example. There's a Darksteel Colossus in the artifacts. You can tinker a Darksteel Colossus if you want. Why not? And Time Walk. Yeah, it's a Time Walk. What do you want me to say about it? It's a Time Walk. All right, moving on. So let me go into all the details why Time Walk is broken. No, I'm going to go on. Anyways, moving on. Wharf Infiltrator. This guy's great. This guy is a 2-mana powerhouse. It's 9 times out of 10, it's always unblockable. You can choose to draw cards and discard cards, but you don't have to. And when you discard creature cards, you can pay 2 to make Eldrazi tokens. This guy is ridiculous. I would declare him to be a 1-card combo. He basically he creates card advantage for you. And anytime you would get rid of a card, you have the ability to turn those discarded cards into tokens. He's great. Factor Fiction. This card's ridiculous. It's tons of card advantage. It's a super tutor. There we go. Top 5 cards of your library. Opponent separates them into 2. You get to choose one of those 2 piles, and the other go into your graveyard. It's very hard to mess up with a Factor Fiction. It's a great card. Tetsuko! I really like this card. This is one of my cards from Dominaria. I love the Tetsuko family. Or I should say the Umezawa family. I like this card. It makes really powerful cards sneak in unblockable. It's pretty nice. 2 mana, 1/3. Look at that booty. She's got big booty. Very nice. Merfolk Trickster. So this is from Dominaria. I think you guys have probably seen this one a few times. This guy's considered to be a really good combat trick. Factor Fiction come on sticks often. Yeah, I guess. I actually own the Sphinx of Uthun, which is basically a Factor Fiction attached to a Sphinx. And not a fan of it. It's like, and I get it, like it's a Factor Fiction attached to a Sphinx, but I never feel comfortable with spending that much for a fact or fiction. Like, it's like I kind of have to choose when I play, because like it's sort of like if you're gonna pay the cost for a Sphinx of Bethune, you want the body, but like you get the fact or fiction attached to it. But like a lot of the time, you don't. When you are able to cast a Sphinx of Bethune, you don't need the fact or fiction. But when you cast a fact or fiction, you actually need the fact or fiction, and that's going to help you get to where you need to go to win the game. Like the fact or fiction attached to the Sphinx of Bethune is like a win more kind of thing. Like you don't need it, you know. So I prefer the fact or fiction over the Sphinx of Bethune. So I got to talk about this Merfolk Trickster. This Trickster, I like Merfolk Trickster, but I want to replace it. This is like one of the blue cards that I want to take out of here and put something else in. And I get it. Like I do know that this is a very strong card, but the card that I want to replace it with is much better. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you guys what I'm planning to replace this with. And I don't actually own this card yet. I'm planning on buying one eventually. It's on my buy list, and I'm basically watching the card prices until it gets to a price that I like. I'm basically planning to replace this Merfolk Trickster with a... yeah, I mean, but that's Commander. This is Cube. It's different. I mean, I get it. This Merfolk Trickster is supposed to be replaced with a Vendilion Click. So I'm planning on eventually buying myself a copy of Vendilion Click, and I'm going to put the Vendilion Click in here, replacing the Merfolk Trickster. But until then, the Merfolk Trickster does just fine. It's okay. Thassa, the God of the Sea. This is the only god that I own. This is the only god I opened when I was playing Theros. My friends got luckier and opened other gods. Like, I remember one of my old friends, he opened an Erebos and a Perforos. But when I opened my Theros packs, I only got Thassa. But goddamn do I love her. She is really strong. Most of the time when you play this card, she's never going to be a creature. Which is fine, because her abilities as an enchantment are absolutely amazing. Strong card. Propaganda. So, this card is defining for blue. My best friend who plays Cube with me the most, he says that whenever he plays my Cube, if he gets Propaganda, he will play blue. He said he always plays blue if he gets Propaganda in his draft picks. This card is obscenely strong. It shuts down games. Like, I mean, it can basically like it's, you have to, when this card hits the field and it's against you, you have to constantly plan around it. And most of the time, you're going to want removal for it. This is why there is so many removal cards for enchantments, artifacts, and there's all kinds of removal in this cube. This is one of those cards where it's like, this is why there is removal in the cube. Because Propaganda is something you want to remove as fast as possible. Delver of Secrets, probably single-handedly one of the most powerful blue 1/1s for 1 mana of all time. Because we all know that Delver of Secrets isn't actually a 1/1. It's a flying 3/2 for 1 mana. This card's ludicrous. It's so stupid, ridiculous, powerful that, like, I just, you know, it has to be in the cube. He gets pretty big very quickly. Obviously, it's a little tougher to play with him when you don't have a deck built around him because there's only one copy. But he is a force to be reckoned with, so you don't question him. He's very strong. Treasure Cruise. This card's great in the cube. This is actually a very recent card that I added, and I was very nervous about adding it. I was worried that it was going to be useless. But it turns out that shortly after I added it, it became a powerhouse card. This card is so strong. Because 9 times out of 10, like, you can easily get this down for between 1 to 3 mana. Like, it's very strong. It's like having another Ancestral Recall in the cube. A foil Kega the Tidestar. Um, he's strong. He will come in and kill everything, and he'll steal creatures while he's at it. He does not care. Strong, powerful dragon. Um, Master of Waves. I also opened this back when I played Theros. Very strong mythic rare, still very powerful. My friend played him not too long ago and got to see truly how powerful it was after he was able to create. I think he created like 5 or 6 elemental tokens. Um, very, very hard to deal with. He's very strong. Um, Phyrexian Metamorph. This is a strictly better clone. Um, I used to actually have a clone, and then I replaced it with Phyrexian Metamorph. Play with him. He's great. He's a trump card. He can be whatever you want him to be. And you don't have to play him in blue. He is technically a blue card, but you don't have to play him in blue. He's fantastic. Copy Artifact. So this is basically like Phyrexian Metamorph in a way, in the sense that it's Phyrexian Metamorph can clone creatures and artifacts. This only clones artifacts. It's worth it. Like, there's all sorts of wicked stuff you can do with this card in this cube, because the artifacts in this cube are very, very strong. Like, for example, there's a Batterskull in my cube, so maybe you want 2 Batterskulls. There is a Darksteel, Colossus. Maybe you want 2 Darksteel Colossus. There is, there's tons and tons of artifacts you can copy that are just ridiculous. So, copy artifacts, great. Sarah Sphinx. I love this card. I told you guys before I love Sarah Angel. I think that Sarah Angel is very strong, especially in this cube. Sarah Sphinx is just simply a blue Sarah Angel, and it's worth it, and it does great, and I like it. And it looks very cool with the special planar chaos border. That's another reason why I really like it. It's got the very nice planar chaos border. Spell Pierce, very, very powerful 1-mana counterspell. There you have it. It's just great. It's just a great counterspell. I mean, I don't really know what else to say about it. It's very powerful. Traumatic Visions. This card's part of the cycle of basic land cycling cards that are out of color. Obviously, all of them are foil, so it says basic land cycling for 2. But it's also a 5-mana counterspell. Surprisingly, this card is really good as a 5-mana counterspell. Like, when you need a counterspell and you don't care about the mana cost, this guy's there for you. It's pretty strong. Classic Control Magic. I actually own a revised copy of Control Magic with the really weird art of the monk and the blue mist around him. But I don't know. I don't use it. I kind of like this art just a little bit better, and also on top of that, I like the simplified text. Because if you guys have ever seen like a revised Control Magic, it has tons and tons of text on it, and it's kind of obnoxious. So I like it just being simply you control enchanted creature, period. That's it. So that's why I have this one in here instead. It's a lot cleaner. It looks a bit nicer. It makes a lot more sense, and the revised one is kind of a cluttered mess. So I don't use my revised copy. Time Twister. That's right, more Power 9. Yeah, it's Time Twister. I mean, I feel like you guys should probably know what Time Twister does. It just basically, yeah. So Time Twister allows you to simply shuffle your hand and graveyard back into your deck, and then you draw 7 new cards. So that's it. It's strong. It's Power 9. There's a reason why it's Power 9. It's crazy strong. Interestingly enough, I would say out of all the Power 9, this one is not played as frequently. It's kind of interesting. I don't have very many memories of me or my friend playing with Time Twister in the cube. It doesn't come up very often, which is kind of surprising. I have plenty of memories of playing with Time Walk and Ancestral Recall, but not Time Twister. It's kind of weird. Counterspell. It's a counterspell. The classic 4th edition 2 mana counterspell. So there you go. Dream Halls. I love this card. This card is very interesting. So for anybody who doesn't understand, like, because the text is a bit much for what it's supposed to basically do. So it's a 5 mana enchantment that basically allows all players, not just you, it allows all players to, whenever you would cast a card, so like whenever you would cast a spell, you may discard a card of the same color. And if you discard a card of the same color, you do not have to pay the mana cost for the spell you are casting. So, like, it would be like, oh, you have Dream Halls out. I want to cast this 7 mana spell. I'm going to, like, this 7 mana blue spell. I'm going to discard a blue card, and that 7 mana spell comes out for free. So, but the thing is that it's a double-edged sword. So it means that you can do this, but your opponent can do it too. It affects all players. So one of the things I've learned about this card, about playing with it, is the most efficient way to play this card is to get it out, like wait until it's late game and you have lots of mana, get this card out, and then play as many cards as you possibly can, and make sure that one of those cards that you play is a enchantment destruction, and then blow up your enchantment right after you get all those spells out. And you kind of also have to bank on the idea that your opponent doesn't have any counter spells or control or anything like that. It's very tough to play, but if you can get it off and make it work, it's amazing. Deadeye Navigator. This guy's ridiculous. He's from I think that's Avacyn Restored. 6 mana, 5/5, Soul Bond, and this creature and the creature it's bonded to have Flicker. Crazy strong. It flickers itself, which can protect it from removal, and it can also flicker other creatures so that you can shake off damage and redo ETBs. It's awesome. Brainstorm, great card, great draw spell, kind of like an Ancestral Recall. I actually prefer this card over Ancestral Recall because it allows for interesting deck manipulation and other kinds of interesting tricks. So, great card. Siren Storm Tamer. This is actually one of my favorite cards from Ixalan. In fact, if I remember correctly, I think this is one of only 2 or 3 cards from Ixalan that are actually in my cube. This guy is great. I used to play with a card called Spiketail Hatchling, which was a 2 mana 1/1 that also had a counterspell built into him. That's what Siren Storm Tamer does. It's great. It's like the counterspell ability that it has built into him is very, very useful. So I like him as a little 1 mana 1/1 flying man with a counterspell built in. He's awesome. Intuition. This card is ridiculous. Like, if you thought Fact or Fiction was crazy strong, Intuition is like a better... It's like they took Fact or Fiction and made it more powerful. So it says... Hold on. Search your library for any 3 cards, reveal them to target opponent, he or she chooses one, put that card into your hand, and the rest into your graveyard, shuffle your library afterwards. This card's ridiculous, and it moves at instant speed. It's wonderful when you save up for a counterspell, and then you don't get to shoot your counterspell off, but you get to shoot off an Intuition. It feels really good. Fledgling Mockhor. This is another morph creature. It's a Tim. And he will ping things. I like him. He's got a nice little 2/2 body for 4 mana. He flies, and he pings stuff, and you can morph him in. I really like this guy a lot. I only own 1 copy of him, which is kind of sad, but it's nice because I only need 1 copy for the cube. Zahid, Djinn of the Lamp. I used to have this guy and a Ma-Madi Djinn in here. But Ma-Madi Djinn is not as powerful as he used to be, but Zahid, Djinn of the Lamp, is like a better Ma-Madi Djinn. He's a Ma-Madi Djinn that you can get in as early as, well, I mean, considering we're playing with Moxen and stuff like that, you can get him in really early. So, I mean, you can get this guy in super crazy early, and he's a 5/6 flyer. So he cheats himself into play, which is really nice, and he gets pretty nasty very quickly. He's just a raw flying 5/6. Pretty nice. The last card, and then also we're going to end the stream after this, is Ancestral Recall. I kind of talked about it just a little bit. It's power 9. It's crazy strong. Always love the force your opponent to draw 3 cards. Who doesn't love that? I pay 1 mana, instant speed. You draw 3 cards. Ha 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 ha. I would love to meet people who force other people to draw 3. Maybe if like you were milling somebody and they only had like 2 cards left in their deck or 1 card left in their deck, and then you played Ancestral Recall to kill them, that would be really cool. I would actually really like to see that. That would be awesome. So, guys, that's the last of the blue cards. I'm going to wrap this up. I've gone over... We basically went for 2 hours and 30 minutes, which is 30 minutes longer than I wanted, but we were halfway through the blue cards when we hit the 2-hour mark, so I was like, whatever, I'll just go the extra, 30 minutes. Force them with force! Draw those cards! Draw them! No, you can't! It says, I can force you to draw those cards. So do it. No swan song. Sorry about that, Helex. I'm out of the camera. I was kind of laying back there for a second. So, yeah, we're going to wrap it up. We went way long with this, and I know that Mike started streaming, and I know that you guys are probably also fans of Mike, so we should probably get over there and see what he's up to. I just really wanted to get all the blue and white cards done. We'll come back on a different day, and we'll go through some more stuff, because this is a lot of fun. You guys got to see all the white cards. You guys got to see all the blue cards. I got to kind of talk about how the cube works, all the special rules, stuff like that, and I kind of hope that this also gives you guys an idea of how to build your own cube and things like that. Because I really want to make you guys focus on the balancing. Because, like, obviously there's lots of powerful cards, but you'll notice I went through all the counter spells, all the removal, all those things, and you'll really find that the cube that I have built here is very well balanced, and that's very important when you're building your own cube. So I hope that you guys can kind of... oh, okay, Goat. Well, thank you for coming in, man. I appreciate it. I hope you guys kind of get a better idea of, like, what my cube is like, and maybe, like, are interested in building your own cubes. And... one of the things is that lots of people are tied to the idea that cubes are just a drafting simulator. And you have to follow all the rules of cubes. But the thing is that what makes cubes so great is you can make all your own rules and you can do whatever you want. And once people kind of understand that a bit better, and I think it's great because I can show you my cube, Perp can show you his cube, and they're 2 very vastly different kinds of cubes, like from each other and also from what a basic cube format is. So it kind of gives people an understanding of like, oh, like cube isn't one specific kind of thing, it's a whole bunch of different things, and you can make your own game and do your own format and all this stuff. And I really liked being able to share that with you guys and giving you guys the opportunity to get an understanding that you can play Magic however you want. Yeah, there's all these formats. Yeah, they have rules, but they're toys. And you can play with your toys however you want. Like, they're your toys. You don't have to follow all the exact rules. Like, obviously you want to follow the basic format of what Magic is supposed to be, but have fun with it. Make your own rules. Make your own fun. Do your own thing. Don't force yourself to play the same bullshit game over and over and over and over and over again. You can do what you want with the cards you own. So I want you guys to keep that in mind and go out and do what you want with your cards and build yourself a cube and make your own rules. And for God's sake, have fun, okay? I'm so tired of watching people play Arena and tearing their hair out. Algorithms! That card is degenerate! Like... Take your cards, do what you want with your cards, have a good time, guys. Like, just keep that in mind, okay? I'm going to say all my normal stuff. thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. You guys rock. I'm glad you guys were having fun and sitting with me and looking at my cards, because I love my cards and I love hanging out with you guys, and I got to bring those two things together. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Go ahead and hit that notification bell. Look in the description below for all of my information. I have my DeviantArt page. I have my Discord server, which is the same name as the channel. It's public. Please feel free to join. I have a fan mail P.O. box. If you want to send me fan mail, please do so. I have a PayPal, so if you want to donate or buy paintings from me, that's the best way to do it. So other than that, I had a great time. I loved hanging out with you guys, and you know what? Follow your dreams, guys, okay?